Hello and welcome to this quick introduction to evaluating your teaching. In IRHE, you'll need this in particular for assignment 2, the pedagogic research essay, which asks you to do a mini research project on an aspect of your teaching. See the separate video and assignment brief for more detail about that. For now, I want to give you some quick ideas about methods you might use to evaluate your teaching and get feedback from your students. At the end of a module, of course, we have the formal module evaluation process. And if you've taught a module before, this might give you great data to start from, or perhaps give you an idea of something to investigate in more detail now. But it's no use for an on-the-fly evaluation of something while you're doing it. Bear in mind that most of the single-session evaluation methods are really easy to set up in normal face-to-face contexts. You hand out some post-it notes, ask students to scribble on them, and collect them in at the end. Online or in no-contact face-to-face sessions, they require a bit of setup work, preparing a Google form or a Mentimeter question on a Padlet board, for example. If you use the same evaluation method for each session, you can usually copy the evaluation for the previous week and just change the date, then drop the link into the chat or email or a Moodle post for students to complete at the end of the session. On this module, I'm using Google Forms. It takes a bit of time to set up, but it's fairly quick for participants to respond to, as long as you keep to a very small number of questions. Don't make any of them compulsory, and don't gather personal information. So make sure that the Collect Brookes email addresses option is turned off if you want anonymous feedback. Stop, Start, Continue is a straightforward one which asks students to write down things they want you to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing. This gives you solid practical feedback you can use to improve future sessions. A 1-minute essay asks students to write for 1 minute about what the main idea of the session was. This helps them to remember it and helps you to see if what they're learning is what you intended to teach. It gives richer feedback than Start, Stop, Continue, but the downside is that it takes a bit more interpreting to turn it into practical actions. Of course, if you're asking your students to fill in a form, you might want to get a bit more detail and ask them to fill in a survey. If you're doing that for IRHE, you'll need to send your survey along with your ethics form to your tutor for sign-off, but you can get much more detailed, richer data this way. It's not suitable for every session type evaluations, and you might consider assigning class time to complete the survey. And you'll want to ensure it doesn't come at a survey-heavy time. Students can easily get over-surveyed and stop responding. It's also important to remember informal teaching evaluations, the stuff you get from just talking to your students. It's harder to use that as data, and you need to be careful about keeping it anonymous and ensuring, for example, that a student who grumbled to you about not understanding the assignment doesn't later feel put on the spot when you're at a session explaining the assignment in more detail. But you also don't want to just ignore the informal feedback you get. What seems to a student like a throwaway comment might be the seed that prompts you to investigate an aspect of your teaching. Finally, don't forget student assignments as a source of evaluation data. If several students misunderstood your assignment brief in the same way, that's telling you something. If a majority of your students choose one essay topic over all the others, that's telling you something. If most of your student lab books have the same problem, that's telling you something. I've focused here on quick and easy methods, though there are of course lots of others, and an extensive literature on them. The discussion in Chapter 9 of the course book, A Handbook for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, which is about feedback to and from students, is a good place to start.